My daughter-in-law had a hidden folder with my name on it. I couldn't believe my eyes after I saw what was in there. My name is Janet Alden. I've lived in the same quiet brick house on Heather Lane for 32 years. It's the kind of place where time slows down, where the same sparrows return to the feeder every morning, and neighbors nod to each other from across the fence. That house was never grand, but it was steady, like me. For most of those years, it was filled with love, warmth, and the scent of something always on the stove. I raised my son, Liam, there, through the screaming infant nights and the difficult teenage silences, until he was a man, taller than me and bursting with promise. Liam was always gentle. Not weak, just soft-hearted, the way his father used to be before the cancer drained the life out of him. I feared Liam's softness would make him vulnerable in a world that didn't always honor kindness. And when he met Cassandra, I let that fear settle somewhere deep in my bones, even though I couldn't quite explain why. Cassandra was beautiful, no doubt. Graceful, articulate, always dressed like she was headed to a luncheon I wasn't invited to. She smiled, she offered to wash dishes, she brought me flowers I suspected were last-minute gas station buys. But something about her charm felt too polished. Like a storefront display that looks perfect until you realize the mannequins are hollow. Still, Liam loved her. So I tried. When they married, I handed over our family dining table, the one Liam built his school projects on and once carved his initials into with a compass. Cassandra had it repainted white. More modern, she said sweetly. It stung more than I admitted. At first, it was the usual newlywed distance. Fewer Sunday dinners. Cancelled phone calls. The kind of soft fade you expect when children form their own lives. But then came the shift. The unexplained silences. The missed birthdays. The way Liam's eyes darted when I asked simple questions, like they were waiting for approval from someone else before answering. Cassandra had a way of smiling with her mouth but not her eyes. She'd touch my arm while saying, "Janet, you really should write things down, you're always forgetting." A joke, on the surface. But Liam stopped including me in group texts after that. Stopped asking me about family history, recipes, or old photos. I started to feel like a visitor in a life I helped build. And then there was Christmas. I bought a gift for Cassandra, a handmade scarf, emerald green, the same color she'd complimented on me once. I wrapped it carefully, even added a card. When I handed it to her, she smiled and said, "Oh, that's sweet. I'll add it to the donation pile." As if I weren't standing right there. Liam said nothing. Not one word. That night, I cried in the laundry room while the sound of their laughter echoed down the hall. I began to keep a journal. Not out of paranoia, but out of self-preservation. I logged every odd glance, every passive jab, every time Cassandra forgot to tell me Liam was sick or traveling. It helped me hold on to reality, because they were starting to make me question it. Still, the worst wasn't the cruelty. It was the erasure. I was being replaced. Not loudly. Not all at once. But like dust being wiped from a photo frame, quietly, without notice. Until one day, something happened that I could not ignore. And from that moment on, the quiet war Cassandra had waged behind smiles and soft words became a battlefield I refused to lose. It was a Tuesday morning, the kind of gray, drizzling day where the sky seems undecided. I had gone to the local market like I always did, bought pears Liam liked and a small bouquet of sunflowers because I missed brightness in the house. On a whim, I decided to drop them off at his and Cassandra's place. Just a short visit. Maybe I'd get to see him for 10 minutes, remind him what my voice sounded like outside of holidays. They lived only 15 minutes away, in a sleek townhouse development with matching driveways and soulless hedges. I had been there dozens of times, but it had been months since I was last invited. I parked across the street and saw both of their cars in the driveway. A relief, in a way. I wouldn't be interrupting. I knocked once. Then again. No answer. The blinds in the living room twitched. I stepped back. Something felt off. I wasn't expecting a grand welcome, but silence. It unsettled me. I started to walk away when I heard a voice, Liam's voice, faint, from inside. It stopped me in my tracks. I moved closer, uncertain. Then I heard Cassandra's voice, sharp and clipped. "She's like a weed. You pull her up and she grows back somewhere else." My stomach clenched. I didn't move. Liam answered, but softer. I couldn't make out his words. Cassandra again, she's trying to control you again. You're too blind to see it. I stood there, the drizzle soaking into my sweater, the flowers wilting in my hand. I didn't want to hear more, but I also couldn't walk away. It was like standing on the edge of a cliff and realizing the wind behind you was stronger than you thought. Cassandra again, louder this time. If you don't draw a line, Liam, I will. I swear, I'll change our number. I'll block her. She's not your responsibility anymore. My legs moved on their own. I left the flowers at the doorstep and drove straight home, tears burning the corners of my eyes but refusing to fall. I didn't cry. Not then. I was too stunned. Too hollowed out. That evening, Liam called. His voice sounded strained. Hey, Mom, he said, did you come by earlier? I hesitated. I did. Just wanted to drop off some pears. You should text first. Cass gets jumpy when people show up unannounced. That was it. No thank you. No acknowledgement. Just a veiled warning. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, opened my journal, and wrote, they don't want me around. But I'm not going anywhere. I began to dig. Liam had never been secretive. He left things open, emails on the iPad he gave me last year, calendar invites that sometimes synced with my account. I never looked before. But now? I was desperate for truth. And that's when I found it. A conversation thread between Cassandra and her sister, buried in a forgotten tab. He's finally coming around, Cassandra had typed. Soon she'll be gone for good. Gone for good. Like I was some pest to be exterminated. I copied the messages. Printed them. Dated them. I didn't confront anyone, not yet. Because I had realized something important. If Cassandra had declared war on me in whispers and manipulation, then I would fight back with silence and proof. And she would never see it coming. I didn't sleep much that week. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard her voice, Cassandra's, echoing in my head, she's not your responsibility anymore. I'd raised Liam through scraped knees and finals week breakdowns, through the death of his father and the years when he barely spoke. And now I wasn't a mother, I was a burden. But I knew Cassandra. I understood her better than she realized. Women like her don't want peace. They want control dressed up as concern. So I kept pretending. Playing quiet. Harmless. The next time Liam invited me over, after what must have been her doing, because he sounded mechanical on the phone, I went. I even brought dessert. The house was pristine, as always, like no one actually lived there. Cassandra was pleasant enough, in that brittle, performative way of hers. She smiled too long. Laughed too loudly. Called me Janet instead of Mom. Liam sat beside her on the couch, his body angled slightly away from mine. You've been quiet lately, he said. I shrugged. Just tired. You sure everything's okay? I looked him in the eyes. Isn't it always? He looked uncomfortable, but didn't push. Later that evening, when Cassandra went to the kitchen, I asked if I could use the bathroom upstairs. Liam said sure. Cassandra shot me a look, but didn't say anything. I didn't go to the bathroom. I went to the office. It was risky. I knew that. But my instincts told me that if Cassandra was bold enough to call me crazy to my own son, she was hiding something. The computer was on. No password. She'd been careless. Her email was open. I scanned through messages, past shopping newsletters and appointment reminders, and then I saw the subject line, Power of Attorney, Revisions. I clicked. It was a draft. Cassandra had contacted a lawyer. She wasn't just trying to isolate Liam emotionally. She was trying to get legal control over his decisions. She claimed he was under chronic stress and subject to emotional confusion stemming from childhood trauma. I read the words twice. She was trying to convince someone that Liam was unstable, that he needed her to manage his affairs. I heard footsteps and quickly backed out, slipped into the hallway, and flushed the bathroom toilet for effect. Back at home, I printed the emails. I created a folder. A real one. With dates, evidence, notes. I wasn't going to scream or beg. I was going to be undeniable. 2 weeks later, I received a letter. It was from a retirement facility. A courtesy packet with pricing information and a pamphlet on easing the transition for seniors. No return address. Just a brochure titled, Embracing Change, Living Without Burden. I stared at it in my hands, shaking. Liam hadn't said a word. I knew where this was heading. Cassandra was laying the groundwork. If she could get Liam to believe I was losing it, emotionally, mentally, she'd have full control. And she'd get me out of their lives forever. But what she didn't know was this: I had already spoken to a lawyer. I had already updated my will. And I had a plan of my own. Because no one erases a mother who refuses to disappear. It's strange, the things you start to notice when you're watching for patterns. The way Liam spoke began to change, not just his tone, but his words. He'd say things like, Cass thinks maybe you should take it easy with finances, or, Cass mentioned you seemed a little confused the other day. Always Cass thinks or Cass said. He wasn't speaking for himself anymore. He'd become an echo. And echoes, I've learned, fade. I started recording every phone call. Not for revenge, at least, that's what I told myself, but for protection. There were moments I wanted to scream into the receiver, to tell Liam to open his damn eyes. But I didn't. I kept my voice even. Sweet. Harmless. I let him think I was compliant. Because nothing disarms a manipulator like quiet resistance. The final straw came 3 days before my birthday. I called Liam to ask if he'd be coming by. He hesitated, then said, We're actually going on a short trip. Cass booked something. Oh, I said. Where to? He paused again. She didn't say. Didn't say. I hung up and sat in my chair for a long time. Not crying. Not angry. Just cold. That night, I called Patricia, Liam's godmother. She'd known him since birth. I told her everything. And to my surprise, she didn't think I was crazy. She'd had her own suspicions for a while. Cass had once pulled her aside at a family event and said, We're trying to help Liam distance from his past. You understand, right? From his past. As if we were pollution. That's when we decided it was time. I gave Patricia copies of everything, emails, photos, transcriptions. I updated my lawyer again. And then, as if fate wanted to hand me a final gift, Cassandra made a mistake. She called me. Janet, she said, too sweet, we've been thinking it's time to explore senior housing options for you. Just something more manageable. You know how Liam worries. Does he? I asked. He's exhausted, she said with a sigh. He doesn't say it out loud, but I see it. You've always leaned a bit heavy on him, and it's not fair to put that on your son now that he has a wife. I smiled, though she couldn't see it. You're right, I said. It's time I took some pressure off him. Her voice brightened instantly. Exactly. I'm so glad you see it that way. I recorded every second. Then I called Liam the next day and asked him to come by alone. I said I had something for him. He hesitated, I could hear it, but agreed. When he arrived, I didn't waste time. I handed him a folder. He opened it slowly, flipping through Cassandra's emails, her messages to her sister, the legal documents about power of attorney. The recording transcripts. I didn't want to believe it, I said, my voice trembling now for the first time, but I needed you to see it for yourself. He didn't speak for a long time. His face went pale. His hands shook. He started, then stopped. She told me you were losing your memory. She told a lot of lies, I said. He sat down, looking broken. Jesus Christ, I didn't comfort him. I let him sit in the weight of it. And then I said, quietly, she tried to erase me, Liam. And you let her. He didn't deny it. Because finally, he saw it too. Liam stayed for hours that night. Longer than he had in years. He read through every document again, every screenshot, every note I had taken, all time-stamped, catalogued, and organized. The weight of it settled on him like wet cement. I could see it in his eyes. That look of a man realizing he'd been complicit in a crime he didn't even know he was committing. I don't know how I let it get this far, he said quietly, staring at his hands like they didn't belong to him anymore. I didn't answer. Not right away. I didn't want to let him off the hook too easily. I think part of you did know, I said. You just didn't want to believe it. Because believing it meant facing what she really is. He nodded slowly, almost shamefully. She told me you forgot things a lot, he said. That you were always making up stories, exaggerating. I guess I let myself believe that because it was easier than standing up to her. And now? I asked. He looked up at me. His voice was hollow. Now I feel like an idiot. No, I said firmly. You were manipulated. That doesn't make you an idiot. But what you do next, that's what matters. We sat in silence after that, letting the words hang heavy in the air. I made him tea. He didn't drink it. The next day, I didn't hear from him. Or the day after that. I figured he needed space to process. But then, on the third day, he called. I confronted her, he said. And? She didn't deny it. Not one word. She actually laughed. I could picture it, that cold, smug smile Cassandra wore when she knew she was holding all the cards. She said, and I quote, Liam continued, "It's not my fault your mother's too paranoid to trust anyone. Maybe if she focused less on drama and more on aging gracefully, we wouldn't be in this mess." I felt a sharp twist in my stomach. Not from surprise, but from confirmation. The monster finally unmasked. What are you going to do? I asked. He didn't respond right away. Then, I told her to pack her things. My breath caught. You, what? I told her to leave, he repeated. That this was done. That I wasn't going to let her poison my family anymore. I sat down hard on the edge of the kitchen counter. I hadn't expected that. I thought maybe a fight, a slow unraveling. But this? She didn't argue? I asked. Oh, she argued, Liam said, darkly. But I'd already changed the locks. A slow smile crept across my face. I'll be by later, he added. There's something I want to talk to you about. In person. When he arrived, he looked like he hadn't slept in days. He sat me down, took my hand, and said something I hadn't heard from him since he was a teenager. I'm sorry, Mom. For everything. I squeezed his fingers. You came back. That's what matters. But Liam shook his head. There's more. What do you mean? He pulled out his phone. I think Cassandra was planning something else. Something worse. I found a hidden folder on her laptop before I shut it down. I frowned. What kind of folder? He handed me the screen. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Taken of me. From a distance. In my backyard. Leaving the market. At church. Time-stamped. Dated. Labeled. My blood ran cold. She was documenting your routines, Liam said. And I think it wasn't just for manipulation. Something darker was at play. Something I hadn't even imagined yet. I scrolled through the images, one by one, my fingers trembling. Each photo was dated. Labeled. 10:42 a.m., walking out of grocery store, 1:17 p.m., backyard, pruning rose bush, 7:05 p.m. Porch light off. There were nearly 100 of them. She'd been tracking me like prey. Why would she do this? I whispered, feeling the walls of my kitchen suddenly tighten around me. I don't know yet, Liam said. But this wasn't just paranoia. She kept a whole folder named Project Alder. Project what? Alder, he repeated. Which I only remember because that's your maiden name. My breath caught in my throat. She named her folder after me? Liam nodded. I'm scared, Mom. I think this went deeper than emotional abuse. She's been planning something. I pushed the phone away like it had burned me. My instincts were screaming now, louder than ever. Cassandra hadn't just wanted to get rid of me. She wanted to erase me. Liam took out a USB. I backed everything up. The lawyer I'd been seeing said this could fall under criminal intent, maybe even stalking. But we have to be careful. Cassandra has always been one step ahead. I closed my eyes for a moment and tried to breathe. The woman had smiled at me, clinked wine glasses with me. And all the while, she'd been orchestrating something sinister behind closed doors. I can't believe I let her in my home, I whispered. She was smart, Liam said bitterly. She didn't just manipulate me. She staged everything. She made it look like you were the problem. I looked at him, and for the first time in years, I saw my boy again, not the shell Cassandra had crafted. What do we do? I asked. I need your help, he said. I want to go through all her old devices, everything she might have touched. If we find more, we go to the police. That evening, we turned my living room into a war room. Liam brought over her old phone, 2 hard drives, and a locked box she'd kept in the closet. I broke it open, he admitted. She never let me look inside. Inside were handwritten notes. Clippings. Old receipts and surveillance reports. Not from a PI, from Cassandra herself. She was tailing you, Liam muttered, flipping through the pages. Look at this. Gas receipts from your neighborhood. Notes about what time you leave church. Even the brand of wine you buy. This isn't just stalking, I said slowly. This is obsession. Liam ran a hand through his hair. Why? What could she possibly want? We sat in silence. Until a photo fell from the bottom of the box. I picked it up. It was old. Faded. Black and white. A girl, maybe 12 or 13. Standing outside a shelter. She looks familiar, Liam said, squinting. My heart dropped. I know this place, I whispered. That's the shelter where I volunteered. Years ago. In the city. I flipped the photo over. In pencil, faint and scrawled, she doesn't remember me. But I remember her. I stared at the picture. At the girl's face. And suddenly, the pieces began to click into place. Oh my God, I breathed. What? Liam asked. I turned to him, the truth sliding into place like a blade between ribs. I think Cassandra knew me before you ever met her. Liam leaned in closer, studying the photo. What do you mean she knew you? From where? I held the image tightly, trying to force my memory through the haze of time. That face, that stare, it wasn't unfamiliar. Not anymore. There was a girl, I said slowly. Back then, she came to the shelter for meals sometimes. Never spoke much. Just watched. What happened to her? I don't know. One day she stopped coming. Liam sat back, his face pale. Are you saying, Cassandra, that she was that girl? I nodded. And if she was, then this, all of this, it wasn't random. It wasn't just marriage manipulation or jealousy. It was revenge. Liam looked like the floor had been pulled out from beneath him. Revenge for what? I stared at the note again. She doesn't remember me. Maybe she thought I failed her, I said. Maybe she blamed me for leaving her behind. But that was decades ago. I met his eyes. Obsession doesn't live on a timeline. There was silence between us, heavy and suffocating. Then Liam stood, pacing. So she inserted herself into my life, into yours, knowing who you were the whole time? Yes. And she married me, what? To punish you? Maybe, I said. Or to get close enough to ruin me. Liam looked horrified. Jesus, Mom. I stood too, steadier than I expected. We need to go to the police. Now. This isn't just stalking anymore. This is planned harm. Psychological abuse. And maybe worse. He nodded. We took everything, the photos, the USB drive, the folder of evidence, and the photo, and drove in silence. At the station, it took hours to walk the detectives through it all. They listened. They asked careful, pointed questions. And by the end of it, they took it seriously, more seriously than either of us expected. She's been watching you for a long time, the officer said. If what you're saying is true, this wasn't a spontaneous breakdown. This was methodical. They opened a case. They took the photo. They even asked Liam for Cassandra's current whereabouts. He hadn't heard from her since the day he kicked her out. No calls, no texts. "She's gone dark," he muttered. And that, perhaps, was the most chilling part. A week passed. Then two. The police came back with news. Cassandra's real identity wasn't what she claimed. Her legal name had been changed twice. The first time shortly after she aged out of the foster system. She reinvented herself, the officer said. No criminal record, but a history of mental health evaluations. She slipped through the cracks. We were told to be cautious. To stay alert. Liam moved in with me temporarily, installed cameras, changed locks, updated passwords. But Cassandra never returned. Until one night, exactly 32 days after she vanished, I found an envelope on my porch. No stamp. Just my name, written in the same looping scrawl from the back of the photo. I opened it slowly. Inside, a single piece of paper. "You always thought you were saving people. But I was already broken before you met me. Now, so are you." Asterisk, no signature. No threats. But it was enough. I called the detective. They took fingerprints. Ramped up patrol. But Cassandra had gone underground. Again. Weeks passed. The anxiety lingered, like a film on every surface of my life. I jumped at noises. I locked doors 3 times. I checked the backyard every morning. And Liam, he carried the guilt like a scar carved into his face. "I should have seen it," he said once. I let her in. "No," I told him. "She fooled all of us. We never found her." Not truly. A woman matching her description was seen boarding a train upstate. A hotel reservation in another name surfaced. But nothing solid. She disappeared, like a shadow melting into pavement. But here's what I know, she didn't win. Because I survived. Because Liam came back to me. Because truth, no matter how twisted or late, always claws its way to the surface. Now, a year later, the cameras remain. The folder of evidence stays locked in a fireproof safe. Liam is in therapy. I am too. We talk more. We laugh again. The wound is still healing, but it's healing. And sometimes I think about that photo. That little girl with the hollow stare. How somewhere along the way, she made a decision to become something else. Someone else. But I made a decision too. To stay. To fight. To never, ever disappear quietly. And if she ever comes back, this time, I won't just be ready. I'll be waiting.